So we're at the end of another week, right? I can't believe it's August 28th. This month has flown by. It's incredible how time flies, right? I go back to school next week. For those of you that don't know, I'm a teacher, and I'm excited. I'm excited to be back at it. I love teaching. I've been doing it for 2 years now, and it's become a real passion. The kids in school, I always thought teachers were supposed to inspire their students, but these kids really inspire me on so many different levels. We're going to be all virtual this year. It's going to be crazy. I know a lot of schools have different scenarios. Some are hybrid. We just found out today that we're actually going to be all virtual. So the teachers will be going into school and teaching, but all the kids are going to be home. So it's going to be really interesting and challenging, but I'm up for the challenge. I want to be able to engage my kids and my students the best I can, and it's going to be awesome. So that's what I'm looking forward to next week. Anyway, hope you're having a great night. Thanks for tuning in. So, as some of you know, I like to do these in the Creative Studio live sessions, and most of the time I'm kind of just painting whatever comes to mind. It's a lot of random paintings. If you look back here on the wall, you can see this is one of the paintings I did. It's an acrylic abstract painting. The last session we did over here, getting used to the camera angle, so if I'm pointing in the wrong place, pardon me. But this was an illustration we did last time in the Creative Studio Live. But what I thought I'd focus on today is just doing a real simple marker ink sketch in a very loose style. If you can see on the wall over here, this is actually a castle I did. It's based on the Cinderella castle at Disney World. And my sketching style is very, very loose. I don't really do realism. I haven't really spent a lot of time practicing, although one day I'd like to get there. But going into architecture school, I learned to really be very loose with my sketch style. So if you look over here on the board, I'm going to switch camera views. This is an illustration I did. It's called Once Upon a Time. And this illustration was actually inspired by my wife. It was for our first year anniversary. And the original sketch is a very small greeting card type of sketch. What you're looking at here is a much larger version that I had blown up. It was actually for a birthday party, and I had people sign it for my wife. But it is, what I liked about this, or what inspired me about it, was Disney. My wife loves Disney, and she loves to read, and she loves fairy tales. So I kind of put all that stuff together, and that's how I came up with this sketch. This was a long time ago, but for me, art is about connecting. It's about connecting on many, many different levels. In particular, this sketch was really about connecting on a personal level. Sometimes it's hard for me to kind of vocalize and say how I feel about things or how I feel about people. And at a young age, I kind of started drawing and creating greeting cards to give people on special occasions, just to let them know, how I kind of felt about them. So I think for me, when I draw something, it kind of comes from here, from my heart. And, so I'm not only connecting with other people, but I'm connecting with myself through sketching, being creative, and painting. So that's one of the reasons I love doing this stuff. So I don't know if you like to paint. If you do, that's awesome. Or sketch or draw. That's awesome. If you don't, and you've never done it, and you're afraid to try it, don't be afraid. I'm going to really just go over a real quick demonstration of how you could just get something on paper, right? One of the biggest challenges for people that are artists and people that haven't done anything is, where to start. You're looking at a blank page. And sometimes it's really hard to come up with ideas. So I thought for tonight, I'd use the reference of this castle to sketch. So again, my name is Jason Nicholas. Thanks for tuning in. And let's get this thing going. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment box. If you want to say hello, chat with each other, I really encourage that. I'll be checking in on the stream, and I'll be answering and participating. So I don't know if you want to sketch along with me. If you want to, just grab a piece of paper and a pen. I like to sketch with Sharpie pens. So I have a Sharpie, I have two different sizes. I have just your regular Sharpie, and then I have this called the Sharpie Magnum. This is huge. I love this marker. It's awesome. And one of the reasons I like to sketch with a big marker, first of all, I have a big piece of paper. I figured I'd scale this up so it's easier for you to see on camera. But another thing that using a big marker allows me to do is to not focus on the detail of what I'm creating. If you look at this illustration, what I mean by really loose style sketches are, if you look at the lines on here, they're very wavy. You know, nothing is precise or crisply drawn. Is that a word, crisply? Sharply drawn. It's very free forming. It's very kind of on the fly sketching. You can definitely see it here. You know, I have some curves and lines here just to represent maybe some hills in the landscape. You know, this is a building, a series of buildings in the background. Not very detailed, but you can kind of get a sense of what they are, right? You can see the roof lines here, just some black kind of rectangular areas where there are windows and doors, some flags at the top. As we get closer to us, the main feature on the left is this castle turret area. And again here, there's really not a lot of detail. Very quick lines. You know, I have some detail here maybe just to indicate some stonework on the castle, some flags to add a little more detail as well. So the idea with quick and loose sketching is just to kind of be fast with it, don't think too much about it, and kind of let your heart or your feelings take over. So back to why I like to use a big pen. When you use a big pen, you're not focusing on detail because the pen has such a wide tip on it that you really can't create detail with it. It's really meant for just kind of blocking things in. So the first step, got a blank piece of paper, right? So where do we start? We're going to look at our image over here. And I'm not going to copy it exactly. I just want to give you some pointers or ideas. And for me, sketching is all about lines. Lines tell many different stories. If you look at this illustration here, let's look at the hills I have. And what I mean about lines telling stories is if a line is straight or it's curved, it'll have two different meanings. In this case, the lines are kind of curved to indicate a hill type of shape. And I'll talk more about lines and how you can do different things with lines as we go along. So in a sketch like this, I'm going to kind of want to block out this castle in the front. Very loose. Again, I'm not trying to replicate what's here. I just want to give you guys a sense or a feeling. And I'm going to just go and kind of block out a real quick shape on here. If you notice my hand, I'm not just kind of firmly holding the pen and dragging it down. And let me get a piece of paper just to kind of illustrate that a little bit better. It's one of the cool things about being in my studio is I can go and I can grab paper when I need it. It's a mess in here. Let me just grab another sheet of paper. So here we go. So on this piece of paper, I just want to demo a couple of quick tips. If I wanted to draw something really sharp and defined, I would basically hold the marker or pen in my hand really tight. And I would move my wrist and my arm together. So I'll just do an example. You see how it's a pretty straight line? I'm dragging everything together. But we're not doing that in this case. We're going to create loose lines. In order to do that, sometimes I'll just loosen up my wrist, kind of shake it around a little bit. Do the same thing with the pen. Just get really loose. I'll typically have music on in the background. I'll kind of start feeling the music and stuff. And I'm not holding it firm. I'm kind of loose with it. So if you kind of see, you know, I'm even kind of moving the pen a little bit as I drag it. So they're not really straight lines. They're very different. So we're going to kind of do that kind of a technique. Just be very loose with it. Sometimes when I'm sketching, the pen will actually skip. You'll see, I'm exaggerating here, that the line isn't continuous. It kind of breaks up in places. And that's just a real interesting way to create what I call participation in a drawing. By leaving some space between the lines, it allows the viewer to participate and kind of fill in the blanks and use their imagination. Right? With paintings or drawings or artwork, we're trying to tell a story. And sometimes it's awesome if you let the viewers kind of fill in the blanks and tell their own part of the story. So let's go back to this castle. I'm just looking at my sketch here. And you'll see that I'll even go over the same line 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 times. It doesn't matter. I'm not just drawing it once. I'm kind of retracing it. And I'm retracing it just to give it that kind of loose feel to it. Right? We have the turret up here. We have some of the, who knows the architecture? Who knows what these things are called in castles? These little areas at the top. I want to say they're called crenellations, but I could be wrong. Being an architect, I should know that, right? So I kind of have a long shape here for the turret. And one of the cool things I find out, or find with drawing and painting, is that the more you add to it, it kind of like, there's a point where it transforms. Who knows Bob Ross? You guys watch Bob Ross out there? Well, if you watch Bob Ross, for me, there's always a point in time when I'm watching where his drawing just like that will automatically just transform into something. It's a real magical moment. So if you're drawing, don't be frustrated, right? Because you're like, if I'm looking at this now, I'm like, all right, what the heck is that? But it will come together. You have to be patient with it. You have to kind of let your tools do the work for you. I don't always feel like I'm in control of what I'm doing here. Sometimes I feel like it's something else is taking over. Right? I know that sounds kind of weird. Whether it's a marker or a paintbrush, I kind of let them do their thing. So I'm just blocking out the castle in the foreground. That's this area here. And I'm going to add just some shapes just to kind of set some kind of a landscape. Maybe in the background down here, there's some kind of a landscape area down here. Maybe we'll kind of mimic the hills that are going on. Maybe over here, I'm going to switch to my other Sharpie pen because I want smaller lines. And I can get really loose and more sketchy with this Sharpie. So, maybe I'm going to sketch in the outline of some buildings in the background here. I love sketching architecture. For me, I find buildings really intriguing. I find that each building can tell its own story, its own history. I've always been attracted to architecture from a young age, probably from watching the Brady Bunch, because Mr. Brady was an architect if you never saw the show. So that was one of my early influences as to what career career path I wanted to go down. So maybe there's a building in this area here. I kind of in the sketch have a small house or something in the landscape back here. Now this is kind of a flat drawing versus a perspective. A perspective is when you look at things and it's almost like a photograph, right? The things in the foreground are closer, things in the background seem smaller and have less detail. This is it's kind of a flat illustration drawing. I'm not going for a perspective type of view to it. And that's something that I'll definitely cover in a future session. Just do some kind of arc up here for maybe a sun. Maybe some more hills or mountains in the background. And if you look at the lines here, you can see this was the thick Sharpie versus these lines here, right? This is much heavier. These are more thin. I kind of wish I was this version, more thin. That means I need to lay off the Ben & Jerry's, because I end up looking more like this line versus that line. Speaking of which, I could go for some ice cream right now. So I hope you're having a great day, everybody. I'm going to check in on the Facebook comments in about a minute or so, and I'll say hello. So this down here, I'm just going to draw some stonework, and basically these are just kind of, I'm going to call them rectangles. They're not quite rectangular, But I'm just adding these little shapes in here just to indicate some kind of maybe stonework. Maybe there's some up here as well. One of the things I like to do in sketching is kind of take a break, step away from it. If you kind of look at the two, like I said, I'm not trying to duplicate this. This is kind of just a launching point for a quick sketch tonight, just to give you guys some ideas. So let me check over the comments, and we'll switch to camera view. I'll grab there's some tea over here. All right, switch to camera. There we go. Hope I'm on screen. So I hope you guys are doing well. Mary Beth, hi Mary Beth, I see you in the comments. Thanks for tuning in tonight. I really appreciate it. Hope you're having a great day, and hope you had a great week. Everybody's well and healthy in your family. So I definitely appreciate you tuning in. Andrea, hello Andrea, how are you? Love this, thank you. That's awesome. I love the fact that you're here. You guys showing up and tuning in makes me really happy. For me, like I was kind of saying before, if you missed it at the beginning, I think it's kind of important to know like where a person's coming from and why they do what they do. I'm not a professional artist, not at all, not even close to being a professional artist. What I do is self-taught. I just am here sharing what I love to do. Art for me is about connecting, and when I can connect with people online that I don't even know just through creating, it's incredible, right? Mary Beth, first time, thank you. I'm glad you're tuning in. That's awesome. Also glad everybody's well. So I've been doing in the studio live sessions for probably a couple of years now. Not regularly, but I'm going to start getting into a regular schedule with this. So thanks for tuning in. If you have questions, feel free to leave me questions. If you have a piece of paper, is anybody actually following along at home? If not, this will be up on my Facebook page, so you can always come back and watch it. So yeah, so let's go back and do some more drawing. Sometimes I talk too much, but because I'm excited, right? It's good to be excited and passionate about something. Yeah, so let's go back to the drawing board. Yes. Oh, if you're following along, yes, that's awesome. Maybe you can post pictures in the future of maybe what you did and sketched out. I would love to see it, and I'll even give some feedback on it as well. So let's go back to the drawing board. No pun intended, although maybe it was intended, right? You'll find that I sometimes have a punny sense of humor, a little cheesy, but it's okay to have fun with what you're doing. So I have some things blocked out, some basic shapes, right? One of the things I'm going to start doing now is I kind of want to indicate, like we have on here, maybe these are some hills. So I'm going to draw some of the contour lines. By contour, I mean the way they're curving, or the way they're following. In my imagination, this is what I'm picturing. So maybe I'm picturing this is kind of a hill, and it's kind of coming down towards us, right? So I'm going to exaggerate on the sketch, but I'm just going to draw some curved lines. Right, so it's kind of exaggerated. Here I have more of a scribbly kind of effect, and I can do that here too. So when you do more scribbly effect, it looks, it's even more loose in appearance. So this hill's kind of coming down this way. Maybe in the background we have another hill area, but it's kind of curving the other way. So in order to represent that, we'll just kind of do our curved lines this way. Right, so these are kind of going in different directions. And then maybe back here, where this other building is setting, maybe we have some lines going this way, I don't know. Whatever we feel like doing tonight. I might get into a little Bob Ross here, right? But we're creating our own world. We can do whatever we want. And this is very therapeutic. We can kind of just create what we want to, and I really believe there are no wrong answers. If we're expressing, we're creating, we're getting our energy out, we're relaxing, whatever this is doing to you in a positive way, it's all good. There are no wrong answers. If your drawing at home does not look like this, that's awesome. I don't want it to. This doesn't even look like this, and that's fine with me. I'm happy with it. We'll just continue to add some more landscape. Maybe the further back, I know it's not really a perspective with depth, but I kind of have less lines up in here. Pardon my, I'm kind of blocking the camera with my body here. But up in this area, I have less lines. So maybe we'll just do not quite as many. Maybe we'll just do a little bit, just to give a little bit of texture to it. And again, tonight is really just about just kind of getting it out there and just doing something. We're not, we're not trying to create a masterpiece. We just want to express ourselves. So I have some lines here and some lines on there. It's looking pretty good. Let's kind of look maybe at the buildings a little bit for our next step. I'm going to start adding a little bit more detail or windows or doors on these. And then hopefully you'll see this kind of transform into a blank area with a little more detail. If you notice, this was an ink sketch with a watercolor wash on it. And a watercolor wash is just a real light watercolor that I added on top of the sketch just to give a little bit of detail or to break out different areas on here. So if we have time, maybe we'll get into a little bit of that. But I'm jumping ahead. So let's add some detail. So if you look at this building here, I have real small rectangles, or kind of almost dots, to indicate doors. Here are bigger doors. So let's just say, I'm not even going to look at the other sketch. Let's just say there's some kind of a doorway here. So I'm just starting off by sketching a loose rectangular shape in there. And for doors, I kind of like to color them black. It doesn't have to be solid, but just to indicate that there's some kind of maybe opening there. Maybe there's an archway. Maybe this is a church or something with an archway here. So I'm drawing a little arch shape, some rectangles. And again, I'm just going to take my Sharpie and just kind of not fill in the entire area, but just enough of it to give it a hint that maybe there's some kind of a doorway or an archway there. And then maybe we have some kind of window areas up in here. Right, so you can kind of see it taking some shape here. And maybe this is another door over here. Let's see. What roof? Let's put some kind of a roof area. Maybe there's some kind of a peaked roof area over here. So I'm just going to loosely sketch in a triangle shape. And maybe this has a circular shaped window in the roof peak. And maybe back in here, maybe I'm going to make another kind of a little peaked area. And I'm going to indicate some kind of a roofing, maybe some kind of a slate roofing material, just by drawing some horizontal lines on here. And adding some vertical ones randomly, just to give a little texture. I hope you can see this okay. Can you guys that are watching this, can you kind of see this? Is the camera close enough? Is the lighting okay? And I just did a similar thing over here. I added some horizontal lines, some vertical ones, maybe to indicate some kind of a roofing material. Maybe it's a slate type of material. Let's see, I want to break out a smaller pen. Which I have over here. Here we go. So this pen, and actually let me show you a sketch as well. So this is a small pen. This is a normal size pen. A couple different brands I like. This is called a Uniball Vision Elite. It's a really nice pen. Another pen I like is the Pilot Precise V7. And I'll just show you some sketches I've done using this pen. So hopefully you can see that in the camera okay. So this was an on-location sketch I did on one of our vacations a few years ago. And I basically just used this pen here, not this exact pen, but the same style. I think I ran out of ink on the other pen. And you know, I have very loose line work on there, and you can see it's more fine than this because the pen point is not as big. So if you're trying to get more detail, then I would go down to a smaller size pen. And this also, you can see, has a watercolor wash on it. Obviously the colors they're not realistic to what was there. It's just kind of my playful interpretation of, you know, how I felt when I was there. It was really beautiful. I felt happy and energetic, alive. I'm inspired by nature on so many different levels, and you know, I just let nature kind of inspire this work. And here's some more just non-colored drawings, but just want to give you an idea. This is a drawing that has very, very, very little detail on it. And I'd be curious to know, what do you see when you're looking at this image? What kind of a scene is this? Or maybe where do you think this takes place? And if you notice, I kind of left it blank because I was talking about a little bit earlier, is letting the viewer kind of use their imagination to kind of fill in the missing pieces. Kind of like I'm asking you to do right now. And by having you do that, it makes you participate in the drawing more, right? It's kind of letting you create your own story. Yeah, it's a harbor. I see in the comments it's a harbor, right? So it's a harbor drawing. And it's awesome you got that, and there's not a lot of detail. Sometimes when people think of artwork, they think it has to be highly detailed. And there are artists that do realism, and it's an amazing talent. I don't do that realism, and maybe because I'm afraid to try. Maybe, you know, like I said before, there are no mistakes in art, and maybe I need to stretch my boundaries and give it a shot. But I also believe in, there's a quote from Leonardo da Vinci that I love. As an architect, I try to live by it. And his quote is, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." So sometimes the simpler something is, the better it is. So that's why I like less lines sometimes. So I know sometimes I get off tangent. We'll go down some paths of mindfulness or Leonardo da Vinci. But if you guys want to chat or about anything, or if you have questions, let me know. I'm going to add some details now with this Uniball pen, the finer size pen. And if you look at my sun here, I just have some kind of, just kind of indicate maybe some kind of sun rays or something. This pen might not pick up so well on camera, and I apologize if it doesn't. I'll post pictures of this on Facebook later. And I'm not pushing the pen down on the paper, I'm just kind of dragging it to get very light line work. I'm going to come back to the castle, and we're going to add more detail on here. It's kind of looking a little blank right now. So one of the things I noticed is, if you look in the top of the tower, I kind of had a window up here. I have kind of shading to indicate that this curves. It happens here as well. It almost looks like the turret is kind of curving. So let's come up to this piece. I am going to grab my bigger Sharpie here, and let's just sketch some kind of a window up here. Just like we did here, except it's a bigger version of it. And it's going to be very loose. I love the sound of the pen on the paper. I feel that artwork, for me, isn't always about the end result, but it's about the process, the experience getting there. And when I'm painting, I'll listen to the sounds I'm making. If there's music on, sometimes I'll paint or draw to the music. It's really about the experience. Now, if this was like a commissioned artwork for a client, obviously there's going to be, the end result is going to be extremely important to them. But if we're creating stuff for ourselves, give yourself permission to just be free and experience the moment. So I kind of sketched a window up there. Lots of times in castles you'll see stone lintels, they're called, above the windows. This is a kind of an arch-shaped window, maybe a Gothic-shaped window. Sometimes you'll see the stonework around it. So I'm just coming back and adding a little level of detail. You'll see the arch stonework doing something like this, maybe. At the bottom, sometimes you'll see another lintel piece. There. That's cool. And then, let's see, I started drawing some flags. They're hard to see because it's all black and white, but I have some flags going here. Just a triangular shape. I'll do an example on here. Right, just a straight line and just a triangle. And sometimes I'll put I think they call it a finial, like a ball shape on the top. Just a very, very simple way to create a flag. Cool. So I'm going to go grab a drink of, I'm having some blueberry tea. It's awesome. And I'll check the comments, check in with you guys. I hope you're enjoying this. I'm having fun creating on a Friday night. I find it's a good way to wind down from a busy week. And yeah, let me check in and say hello again. I gotta switch to camera view. I should be on again. Awesome. So yes, I'm checking in. Andrea, I'm sorry, I don't know if it's Andrea or Andrea. Either way, yeah, so someplace in New England. So good guess, it was actually up in Maine. Awesome. And thank you, freestyle sketching. It is very organic and freeing, and I think that's why I really like it. The way you draw a line can tell a story into or unto itself, whatever the proper grammar is. And after I have a sip here, I'll go over and I'll give you kind of a demo of what I mean by different lines and how they can tell different stories. Watercolors, good question. So I will grab these. So this actually right here is the Winsor & Newton Copman Travel Watercolor Set. Haha, got you about your name. Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, it's a Winsor & Newton Copman Travel Kit or Travel Watercolor Kit. And what I really like about this is it's very portable, easy to carry around. I have this thing that I put together. This is what I call my travel art kit or travel sketching kit, painting kit. And what I have in here, this is just a metallic clipboard, right? You can hear it. Has a nice clip on top so you can put your artwork underneath. And see, you made me think of this when you mentioned the watercolor, so thanks for bringing that up. Because in here, See if I can get it on camera. I don't know. I always admired waiters and waitresses, wait staff, how they do this and bring the food in. I hope I don't drop this. Let's see. Trying to get on camera. So in here I actually have another Winsor & Newton travel watercolor set. Fits right in this case. Oh, awesome. Yeah, these are really, I have been using these for years and I love them. So cool. I'm glad you have them. So in this travel kit, I got the Winsor & Newton colors. These are awesome. I don't know if you guys have used these before. There we go. These are actually water brushes. And what they do is, kind of like the name says, there is water in here, and it's a brush. So this is really great for putting in a travel kit. I'll make sure it's filled up before I leave, so I don't really need to bring water with me. But for quick sketching out in the field, you're ready to go with water. And I'll be demoing these another time. Also in here, I also have some colored pencils. I have my Sharpie pens, of course. And this is really awesome too. This is a graphite stick. It's water soluble, so that means when you add water to it, you can almost use it like paint. So this is really, really cool stuff too. Maybe I'll give you a demo on that. And I have paintbrushes in here too, and paper. So this is a really cool little kit that you can put together if you like to go out and travel and do some drawing and sketching. I use it all the time. I was out sketching some buildings the other day. Awesome. So cool. So yeah, let's go back to the canvas, the easel, and continue this. We're going to, we have another half hour or so, and we'll just keep working on it. Again, if you have questions, feel free to let me know. Back to the board. This way, right? Or this way. This camera thing's confusing. I don't know which way to point. All right. Awesome. So I want to give you guys a quick demo about lines and how lines can tell different stories. Let me grab another piece of paper here. So I have a piece of scrap paper and I have these handy binder clips. I always said that my favorite office supply is the binder clip. I love these clips. There are so many uses for these things. They're amazing. I usually actually have these in my travel kit also. Alright, so let's do a quick line demonstration. So lines can tell different stories just by the way they're drawn, right? So let's draw. I'm going to draw a few lines and I'm going to ask you guys some questions, okay? So let me just draw one here. Alright, so I have two different lines, right? Very straight, horizontal line, and I have this kind of jagged line. If I had to ask you, say this is line A, and this is line B, what kind of story do you think, or emotions do you think line A conveys compared to line B? What kind of story or emotions do you think line B tells? I'd be curious to know what you think. Yeah, I'm going to sketch a couple more while let you guys think about that. Let's see. So let's look at line A. To me, line A is a very straight horizontal line. It's kind of telling me a couple things. It's telling me, hey, look at me. I'm trying to define something. I'm trying to tell you a specific story. Right. Look, I see some comments coming in. So A is boring, B is exciting. I love that. I love that. That's an excellent response. A is right. You're right. A is kind of defining. It's kind of here I am, right? It's boring in a way. And B is totally opposite. It's exciting. Um, Anger. Sometimes this could express an angry kind of feeling. Or dynamic, right? Like you're in the moment, you're excited about something. So it's kind of has a lot of movement to it. If you go to line C is just a vertical line. And line C, vertical line tells you what? If this is horizontal, we know it's kind of boring, straight, defining. Horizontal, right? It's a plane. Vertical is telling us, okay, there's movement or motion moving up and down on your page. Kind of like I did these lines over here on the sketch. They're kind of indicating movement or curving or flowing in a certain direction. And then I have D over here. This is called a hatching pattern. But a hatching pattern is kind of, maybe it's confusing. It doesn't know, excuse me, it doesn't know which way it's going. It's kind of going in all different directions, right? And then I drew this line, which we talked about over here on the sketch. This is kind of an exaggerated version of my sketches, my loose style sketching. It's kind of a line, maybe a little space somewhere, another line, space, and a line. And like we talked about, those spaces kind of let you use your imagination or the viewer to fill in the blanks. So lines are really, it's the key, right? Sketching, drawing, painting, it all comes down to basic lines. That's a real quick overview. I can definitely get into more detail at another point. So whenever you look at a blank page and you don't know what to do, I say start off with a line. How are you feeling? If you're feeling angry in the moment, if you have a rough day, or you spilled your coffee, or you ran out of your favorite Ben and Jerry's flavor, and you don't know where to start, and you have a blank page, and you want to get it out, maybe you're not happy. Maybe you're like, angry, right? Or maybe you have a really cool day, everything's great, beautiful outside, and you're hanging out in nature and running around with the kids, having a good time. So maybe you're just very peaceful. So you just kind of let your emotions take over. Don't let the pen in your hand control what you're drawing. Let your feelings just take over. I noticed that when I listen to music, depending on the different music I listen to, I'll draw different lines. If I'm listening to something a little more, rock or heavy metal or Metallica or something, or even something really dramatic. I love movie music, dramatic movie music. I'll see lines like this in drawings that I didn't even consciously draw. It's pretty cool stuff. Awesome. So that's a little bit about lines. Let's kind of come back to this. We'll add a little bit of more detail. And I think I would like to do one thing towards the end. It's kind of an experiment. Sometimes I like to try things. And you guys will be the first to see it. So I hope you like it. I hope I like it. We'll see how it goes. Art's about trying different things, right? So I'm going to go back to my fine pen, and I just want to add some of the kind of the shadow or shape lines on here. There are some details here I can add to. I notice I have some kind of almost like arch shapes in here. I'm just going to pull out the Sharpie. I think it's easier for you guys to see. I hope you noticed as we were going along, the more stuff we add to it, the more it starts coming together, right? And then let's do these curved lines. So normally I probably would use this fine pen, but I don't think it's going to show up on camera, so I'm going to go back to this Sharpie. And I'm going to kind of just draw this area. I just want to indicate that, maybe there is some kind of a curve to this piece. And to do that, I'm just going to draw an arch shape. That's it. I have a little arch kind of piece here. And then I'm going to go back. And I talked earlier when I was talking about lines and how they tell stories. You know, a vertical line, this is a very vertical piece. So I'm going to draw some just vertical lines on here. And again, we are not coloring within the lines on this at all. This is all about just be loose. Let's have some attitude when we draw, right? Let's get it out. So I just did some vertical lines, and then maybe up in this area, kind of here, maybe this top piece is kind of curving. Again, I'm just drawing an arch shape. So I have this blue tape on here. This is painter's tape, just to hold the piece of paper up. And when I peel it off, it's going to leave a nice clean edge around the drawing. I was just looking to see if there's an example I can show you. But anyway, here. But I digress. So I'm just doing some vertical lines on there. Again, we're just trying to create a little bit of shape to it. Maybe I'll add some more. And if this is curving, right? We have some curve lines in here. Kind of like we did for the hills, but we're going to do it on the building. So let's do it. Trying to get a good angle here. Let's see. So I come over here and just draw some curves. And I'm going to add some more up here as well. Sometimes when I'm working, I'll just kind of come over and I'll just add some more loose lines. For this, I do want to go to the smaller pen. And I would just go around and just add all kinds of little blips, little line work, whatever you're feeling. I'm going to be quiet for a minute or two and just let you do your thing. And just play around. So I'm kind of really scribbling, right? I'm just scribbling lines on here over what I did. You know, maybe I want this area to be a little darker in here, but I don't want it to be solid black, so I'm just going to kind of scribble some lines in there. And by scribbling it helps to add to the loosey feeling, the loosey-goosey sketch style. You know, maybe I want to add some more stones down here. Cool. yeah, I think I'm just adding some vertical things. Maybe there are some grasses or something, I don't know, something growing down in the foreground. It's just a way of kind of tying what's going on together instead of having this blank down here. Just bringing some movement down to the bottom. Awesome. So it's always good to step away, take a look at what you have going. Part of drawing and creating is knowing when to stop, right? And sometimes you just got to go with your gut on that. I think this is looking okay for now. Sometimes I'll walk away from a drawing or painting and look at it a couple days later, or a week later, a month later, and I'll be like, hey, I could add this to it or do this to it. Or sometimes I'll have to just be like, all right, it's done. So I think this is looking pretty good. What I'd like to do is, I think we have a little bit more time, maybe a few more minutes. I'm just going to add a little bit of color on this, if you guys are up for that. But I want to try something different that I haven't really done. And I'm going to come over here for a second and check in. If you're liking this, that's awesome. Give me a thumbs up. Feel free to share this with other people. I'd love to get the word out. Yeah. So here's what I want to do. So I like coffee. We have a Keurig machine. And get tired of always throwing out the coffee stuff. You have the coffee pods. So today I'm like, hey, let me take a coffee pod. I know, right? He's like, where is he going with this? So I took the grinds out, put them in some water, and I know people paint with coffee. I have painted with coffee in the past. I have not painted with leftover Keurig coffee. Might be a little watery, so I don't know how strong it's going to be. So I really just have some coffee in here. It's hazelnut. Just smelling it, it's hazelnut. So I'm just going to try to give a wash on this painting over here with some hazelnut coffee and see how it comes out. I really believe that part of the fun of creating and doing artwork is experimenting and trying different things, right? So let's go for it. There are no wrong answers. So let's go put some coffee on the paint. In college, I had an architecture professor who was an amazing artist. He drew buildings that were incredible, but he did coffee painting, and his paintings were amazing. But I think he drank some pretty strong coffee. I'm afraid this might be a little bit weak, but we'll give it a shot. And let's just do it and see what happens. There are coffee grinds on here. When it dries, I should be able to, the grinds will come right off, wipe off. This is a drip technique, which I do a lot in abstract paintings. So I don't mind it dripping down the page right now. That's fine. I think this needs to be a little bit stronger, but you can see where it's puddling up. It's a little bit darker. Hopefully, it's coming out on camera. So the coffee needs to be stronger. Let's give it a wash. Maybe we'll just kind of give the castle a quick wash here, just to add some color to it. And I'm kind of following the lines a little bit. I have some horizontal lines, so I'm doing horizontal with the brush. Here at the castle, maybe I'll do a little bit of some vertical. Go back to the verticality. I'll let the coffee drip down. It smells good, I'll tell you that. This actually is looking really cool. As it's drying, it's actually drying a little bit darker. What I'll probably do is I'll come back another time, maybe tomorrow or later, and add, probably tomorrow, it's getting late, I'll add some more on here. Let's see, I'm going to put a real heavy base down here and see what it looks like. I appreciate you guys letting me just try this out. And I'll post the final piece on Facebook. So I'm guessing you guys have found my Facebook page. If you liked it or not, I hope you have. I'll start noticing the names more and recognizing who's watching and who's posting and stuff. And that's just a little wash on here. Can you guys see the wash okay on your screens, or is it not, or is it too faint? I have to say, in person, I do like the way it's looking. You know, it'd be really cool to add another layer or two after it dries. Cool. So I think that's a wrap for the painting. I always like to come and just close in the studio live with a couple of things, a couple of tips or pointers or just something we talked about tonight. So awesome. So I'm actually looking on camera now. I can see the wash on camera. Kind of looks kind of beigey. Pretty cool. You know what? Bear with me. I think I'm going to add a little bit of color. That's what. Just something just said. Add a little pop on there. So let me grab. So let me grab my watercolors. I have my Winsor Newton watercolors that we looked at before, right here. And I feel like I just want to add a little bit of orange or red or something, just to pop out that sun. So I have the watercolors, and let's use one of those watercolor brushes I talked about. All right, and then we'll wrap up. I got carried away. Sorry, I love this stuff. All right, so here's the watercolor brush. And there's water in there, and I'm just going to grab some orange. When I paint, I know paints have so many names, right? People that name paints are amazing. What a job that is. But I can't remember the names all the time. So I just kind of go with orange or yellow or green. So I can't really tell you exactly what orange that is I'm using. But, all right, so I have some orange on here. And again, just like we were drawing with the pen, I'm just very loose. I'm just going to throw some of the orange on here. And I'm even let it run down the page a little bit. The more water you add, the lighter the color will be. So actually, I'm not going to add really any water to this. I'm just going to take it straight from the pan, right? These little areas are called pans. And let's see how dark it looks. Right on my head if it's in the camera view, I'll move. So you can kind of see how that's vibrant there. And then maybe I'll just kind of scrub it down a little bit, wash it down with adding. I'm just squeezing the brush and just letting the water come out. It dripped down. That's okay. I kind of like this look. It's kind of very loose and sketchy. If you don't like the drips, you can take a paper towel and you can kind of wipe it off if you want before it dries too much. So I always have paper towels handy. It depends what kind of look you're going for. You know, you could blot out. If I want to blot some of this out, I could. And that's gonna be a wrap for that painting tonight. I just wanted to put a little pop of color in there. And we could definitely continue and add more colors like that picture. Awesome. I had so much fun. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you got some pointers along the way. You know, it's hard to cram a lot of detail into an hour here. But I just wanted to share just some of my thoughts, you know, why I like to create and how creating can be inspirational. Paper. So this is done on, this is Canson watercolor paper and 18 by 24 size. It's 140 pound, so it's fairly thick, which is really great. So when the paper gets wet, it's not getting all buckled. Sometimes it will buckle, but it'll flatten out. Usually flattens out. And then it's a cold pressed paper. So cold pressed means it has a texture to it. That I even have that in my smaller sketchbooks here. It's the same type of paper. This is a very thick. This was actually a little quick landscaping thing I did one day, just inspired by some of the colors outside. So thank you for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some good information. I'd love to hear your feedback, your comments. If you haven't liked my Facebook page, please like it. I am going to be doing 4 live sessions in September in a private Facebook group. We're going to be talking more about this type of loose style sketching in more detail. If you're interested in that, you could go to my website. I'll show you where that is and sign up for it. It's going to be a small fee. It's going to be like a $30 fee. Got to recoup some of my material costs here. But it's going to be, loose sketching like we did tonight. If you're interested, let me just share my screen for a second. I'll just kind of show you if you haven't been to my site. So this is my website here, theinspiredlife.com. And if you go to my site, on the first page, you can just come here and see where it says online course notifications. You can just go here, and if you're not already on my email list, just put your name and your email, and then I'll get a notification, and then I can send you more information about the course if you want. I'll also be posting about it in, it's not a course, it's 4 live 1-hour sessions. I'm going to keep the group limited so I can engage with you guys. So that's up and coming. Hope you don't mind me sharing that with you. Other than that, I just want to say thanks again. I always like to leave with a couple of quick pointers. I talk a lot sometimes. So I think one of the key takeaways, something I mentioned, was art isn't really, and for me, isn't always about the end result. It's about enjoying the process, enjoying the journey. Embracing the moment, right? We need to take time and do the things we love to do, but enjoy them while we're doing them. Sometimes I'll be like, I have 10 minutes, I could cram in to do this activity. But when I do that activity in 10 minutes, I feel like I didn't really do it because I rushed it. Take your time. When I'm painting, I'm listening to music. I'm listening to the sound of the paintbrush, the pen. I know it's going to sound weird, but it's take your time, enjoy it, right? So that's the first tip. The second tip is, what's the other tip? Don't be afraid to try things. I tried this coffee wash. Art's about being creative and trying things. So those are my 2 takeaways for today. Thanks for tuning in. You guys are awesome. Mary Beth, Andrea, either way, right? Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciated you being here live. It really meant a lot to me to be able to talk to you and engage with you during this session. So thanks a lot. Hope you have an awesome weekend. Be sure to tune in for more updates. And if you painted something or sketched something tonight, I'd love for you to share it on my Facebook page and take a look at it. So thanks again. You're awesome. And as I always like to wrap these up, I always like to say a couple of words, and that's peace and live an inspired and creative life. Thanks, guys. You're awesome. I will be back real soon. Have a great night. Stay healthy and well. Bye.